Namaste, Hare Krishna. Welcome to our series on Bhagavad Gita. We're beginning this series on Bhagavad Gita today. Today is an auspicious day, Makar Sankranti. It is the day where the sun passes into the constellation Capricorn. It is also Ekadashi Tithi. It is the day in the lunar calendar ruled by Bhagavan Vishnu. It is a supremely auspicious day, and we normally observe it with fasting. Basically, Bhagavad Gita is spoken on a battlefield, and this was the Battle of Kurukshetra. So there was a big story behind this known as Mahabharata. There was a kingdom that was divided, and there was a war between cousins. We're going to talk about all this. The peace efforts all failed. The Pandavas were being cheated out of their share of the kingdom, and they made all attempts to make peace. And Krishna, the supreme personality, the supreme Godhead, he himself was on the side of the Pandavas. The Pandavas were righteous, and he wanted to make sure that righteousness would prevail. So the two armies, ultimately, it came to blows, and two armies assembled, and it was on this stage that Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So I'm not actually going to talk about what the Bhagavad Gita contains in this session. We're going to try to keep this to just about 20 or 30 minutes every week and talk about, go through the Bhagavad Gita a little bit at a time, because there's so much philosophy in the Gita, but we're starting out kind of with setting the stage. And this is actually the topic of the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But we're also giving some context from the Mahabharata. So let us talk about the context of Mahabharata. So Mahabharata is a great epic. It is a poetic composition, and it has over 400,000 verses. In comparison, other great epics of the world, like the Iliad and the Odyssey, if we put them together, we have, about 27,000, 28,000 lines. Mahabharata is around 400,000 verses. It is massive. It is on a massive scale. Now, this drawing showing pillars and buildings is not actually to scale. If we actually did it to scale, Mahabharata would be way out here, and the Iliad would be somewhere like that. So what does it describe? It was fundamentally a property dispute. The Pandavas and the Kauravas were the sons of Dhritarashtra, and the Pandavas were the sons of Maharaj Pandu, who was a very righteous devotee of Sri Krishna. And they wanted to avoid conflict. They said that, look, our kingdom can be divided, but I know you guys don't want to really divide it fairly, but we'll make a proposal. For the sake of peace, after everything was said and done, we will rule 5 villages, because they were royalty. They had to rule something. They had to have some kind of domain. And so this was the proposal. We'll take just 5 villages, and then we won't make any more trouble. But Duryodhan was very stubborn, and he said, we will not even give you enough land to stick a pin into. So this is basically where things stood at the time. So Duryodhan is the leader of the Kauravas, and he's a very persuasive person. He was very convincing. He could be very charming, but he was all about being in control, taking everything, not sharing. It had to be his way always. Duryodhan was said to be a partial incarnation of Kali, who is the controller of the current era. We currently live in the age of Kali. It is the era of quarrel and hypocrisy. We see hypocrisy and dual standards everywhere, and that's a symptom of this age. So what was the choice? Now, there was, prior to the battle, both Arjun, who was Krishna's very dear friend amongst the Pandavas, all of the Pandavas were very, very fond of Krishna. They loved Krishna so much. Like Krishna was their everything. He was their advisor. He was their cousin. He was their spiritual guide, and they loved him just so much. And Arjun went to see Krishna. So Arjun went to see Sri Krishna, and Duryodhan also went there. And they arrived at the same time, but Krishna was still asleep. Krishna was lying in his bed in Dwarka. And Duryodhan insisted on sitting by the head of the bed. There was a nice chair there. And Arjun, he sat by the foot of the bed. So when Krishna opened his eyes, and Arjun and Duryodhan made an arrangement. Okay, whichever one of us Krishna looks at first, they will get to choose. So Krishna had said, you will have two choices before they even went there to see him. He said, you can either choose me or you can choose my Narayani Sena. Krishna's Narayani Sena was a great army. It was an entire Akshauhini division, which is about 1 million soldiers altogether. Very, very formidable army. Of course, Duryodhan was calculating, oh, that Narayani Sena, that will definitely push my advantage over the Pandavas significantly, and I will be victorious. I will be able to enjoy, win, conquer everything, and they will be the losers. But Arjun was thinking, I only need Krishna. I don't need anything else. So when Krishna opened his eyes, of course, he looked and he saw Arjun. And so Krishna said, oh, Arjun. And then he looked and saw Duryodhan. He said, oh, Duryodhan, you have also come. So, Arjun, what is your choice? Arjun said, oh, Krishna, I will choose you. But Krishna had taken a vow that he would not take up weapons in the upcoming battle, in the battle of Kurukshetra. So Arjun knew this, but he still said, oh, I want to have you on my side. Even if you are unarmed, even if you will not take up any weapon, I will have you. You can be my chariot driver. So this was a choice made out of friendship and devotion. And then Duryodhan was very pleased. He thought, oh, I have gotten what I wanted. I get the Krishna's army, the Narayani Sena. So I will choose resources. So ultimately, this is what happened. Now, there is one other story that happened. There was one very dear uncle of the Pandavas, Shalya. And Shalya was on his way to meet the Pandavas to pledge his support. And Duryodhan did some deception. He arranged comfort for Shalya and his army on their way, and he didn't reveal who it was until finally he came to the end and he revealed that it was him. And then Shalya felt obligated because the debt of obligation was so strong with these warriors that he was obligated to fight on the side of Duryodhan. So ultimately, Duryodhan had 11 superior numbers. And the Pandavas had only 7 Akshavinis, so they were vastly outnumbered, but they would require strategic genius and divine guidance to succeed. So there were a lot of things that made this very different from modern warfare. There were phalanxes or vyuhas, some complex battle arrays, like there was an eagle vyuha, there is a wheel vyuha, there is a chakra vyuha, and there is the needle vyuha, so many different vyuhas. And there were Maharathis, great warriors who could fight with thousands of persons simultaneously. And there were also astras, celestial weapons, which could have mantras invoked, which had great destructive capacity, somewhat like modern missiles, but more selective. So an astra could have a very specific action, or it could be targeted against a single individual. So the Bhagavad Gita, as we have received it, is based on this secretary, Sanjaya. Sanjaya is a disciple of Vyasadeva, and he was the secretary of King Dhritarashtra. So he had the ability to see things at a great distance. So he was able to see everything that happened on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and he was able to give the blind king Dhritarashtra a blow-by-blow report of everything that went on. So in the beginning, the Bhagavad Gita opens with a verse where Dhritarashtra says, Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samavetaya Yutsava Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakuravata Sanjaya. Hey, Sanjaya, please tell me, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do? They have assembled at the place of pilgrimage known as Kurukshetra, desiring to fight. So he was not only blind, but he was also blind to justice and the proper way of things. Kurukshetra was called the Dharmakshetra. It was a holy ground. There was a king who performed many sacrifices there, and that place had become very sanctified, such that if there was any warrior who left their body on this field of battle, they would attain heaven regardless of the outcome. So, because of this location, there was a guarantee that dharma would prevail, righteousness would prevail. So, just as the battle was about to start, the conch shells blew, the war drums were sounding, everyone was getting ready to pick up their weapons and go. Arjun asked his charioteer Krishna, Senayor madhye rakam sthapaya metyuta. O Achyuta, O infallible Krishna, please take my chariot to the midst of these two armies. I want to see with my own eyes who we are about to fight. So Krishna complied, and Arjun saw all these people before him. His grandfather Bhishma, Dronacharya, his teacher, who was fighting on the side of the Kauravas. And he saw so many kinsmen, uncles, and others, uncles, cousins, those who were like brothers to him. And he realized something. If I fight this war, whether I win or I lose, it is going to be such a big loss. And then he became dejected. This is called Vishada. Vishada can be translated as depression. It is dejection. He experienced physical symptoms, physical shaking. His skin was burning. He dropped his Gandiva bone. And Arjun gave some logic. He said, this will actually be a bad thing. If we do this, we will create havoc in society. And what is the use of our gaining a kingdom if we have to kill those for whom we may desire it? It would be better if we are killed unresisting than to fight in such a battle. This was Arjun playing it out from the moral perspective. He was saying that, this war, this conflict, what is the point? It is better that we should go and live in the forest than to fight this battle. So there were two basically conflicting dharmas. One was the preservation of the social unit, Kula Dharma, family duty, and the other was the Kshatriya Dharma, the warrior duty, protection of justice. Arjun had himself in a bind. He needed some guidance. He wanted to get some higher authority input. So who did he turn to? Sri Krishna, who is his chariot driver. So now that person that was the chariot driver of Arjun, Sri Krishna, he now becomes the teacher. And Arjun has said, please tell me what to do. All of this maneuvering, this whole gathering on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, all of this drama was just to create this specific moment. And the Bhagavad Gita is considered to be the centerpiece of the entire Mahabharata. The Bhagavad Gita is only 700 some verses in the midst of the 400,000 verses of Mahabharata. It's just a tiny drop, but it is the most significant part of Mahabharata. So Krishna gave Arjun instructions, not just to make Arjun fight, but also to cure him of his delusion regarding life, death, and duty. Arjun was confused. He had fallen into some delusion and he was thinking in terms of family and society and friendship. But really, Krishna had already determined that the Kauravas had to be removed. They were creating a burden on the earth. When there are too many selfish persons on the earth feels pain. The earth is connected. The earth belongs to God. The earth belongs to the divine. And if earth is being trampled on by selfish persons who are screaming and shouting and quarreling and fighting over resources, the earth feels distress. So Krishna had a desire to relieve this burden of the earth. Arjuna was saying, hey, this is going to cause trouble. It will cause trouble in family. It will leave so many families without anyone to protect them. But Krishna was thinking, the earth is distressed. And these Kauravas are full of demonic intent and energy, and they have to be removed. And Arjun is my instrument to do it. So this was the conflict. Ultimately, Krishna also reveals his universal form. He shows to everyone on the battle that he is not just the friend of Arjun, but he himself is time. What is time? Time is that which ultimately destroys everything. So we will continue next week with the beginning installment, what exactly Krishna is telling Arjun, beginning from the philosophy of Sankhya, Atma Tattva. Who am I? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.